Hey Sandra, Shabbat Shalom. That sounds right. I think it is.
Plastics, pollution.
Lisa, I'll be right back. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you. Hi, Lise. You're going to come up and light the candles. Hi, Linda.
Lisa has a question.
Yes.
Because Rabbi Kozlowski asked her to do candles.
Yes.
But David Wolfson's order sheet has somebody named Binder doing candles.
That's the name of the, it's Cantor's sheet,
Oh,
and that's the name of the composer.
song.
That's right.
Okay, that's the composer of the candle song.
Just want to thank you for the call. It was so sweet. It was. Thank you. I was in the shower when you called. I heard the phone ringing, but I was not going to get out of the shower.
I hear you.
But
You don't take
thank-
your phone into the shower?
I
like
do
some,
not.
Yeah, some people
no,
do.
But thank you so much.
My pleasure. I
Your
hope
words
it was
were
a-
very sweet.
Thank you. I hope it was a great
She
birthday.
sits here and you call her up?
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
Rabbi Kozlowski's told her something about sitting up here. You don't want her sitting
And
up
people
here.
could sit up here if they want to.
Talk to her, please, and tell her.
share that?
Well, you're doing the opening song first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before any words?
That's what's on the sheet.
You usually say Shabbat Shalom or something.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor. It is always good to be together and to join in our prayer service. It's very nice to see you. It looks like you've pushed to the back. You're afraid, that you might get sprayed like we're at SeaWorld. But it is wonderful that you're here. We are excited to participate in services, and it is a beautiful evening. So let the sun shine cast in through our windows, but also let the light of Shabbat cast out and be a beacon for others. We are going to begin our service with singing Hine Matov, which can be found on page 10.
Hine ma tov u'ma na'im shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im shevet achim gam yachad.
In Mishnah Brachot, we read, if one is coming along the road and hears the sound of sirens in the city, and then says, may it be your will, O God, that my house not be burning. This is a prayer known as Tfilat Shav, a fruitless or futile prayer. It was the rabbis of the Mishnah's contention that the prayer would be fruitless because the fire would have already come to pass, and therefore our prayers would not change those events. But that's not the only reason why. Another very sensitive reading of the text shares that we are not to pray that our house be the one that is not burning, because to pray that the house not be yours would necessitate that it would be someone else's house that is burning. But still, our tradition doesn't stop there. Yet again, we dive deeper, and the tradition shares one last explanation and states that we are not to pray that it is not our house that is burning, because in reality, all our homes are burning. Our home, the planet Earth, is burning. There's war and famine, injustice and bigotry, poverty and despair, and environmental degradation, and all of this risks our future. And it would all be too much to bear were it not for people who volunteer their time and their efforts to try and take the brokenness of the world around them and fit those broken pieces together one at a time through acts of tikkun olam to make our world more whole and more holy. I want to begin tonight's service by thanking the chairs of our congregation's 3 committees who are featured this evening. From our Social Action Committee, Bill Gartenberg and Steve Rubnitz. From the Voices of Justice Committee, Gili and Larry Gollopel. From our Dayenu Committee, David Wolfson and Lise Malton. Thank you to the volunteers on those committees and all who have lent their time and energy to make this evening possible and the good work that our community does and can do for the world that we share. And welcome and thank you to Minal Atre for speaking with us this evening and the good work that you do to make the world a better place. Tonight we pray, but let our prayers not be tfilat shav, fruitless words that fill this evening that we spend together. Rather, let our prayers inspire us to action, as we are the ones that must sow the seeds of our future world with our hands and hearts turned towards a better tomorrow for us and for our children's children. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are going to turn now to page 9. As we read responsively on page 9, we offer thanks. And it's a joy to call upon Lise Malton, who's going to step forward as she has the honor of kindling our Shabbat candles. And certainly you bring a tremendous amount of light into our community and to our congregation. So let us read responsively on page 9. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope.
For Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living.
For Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness.
For Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love.
We offer thanks and blessing, O God. We turn back now in our Siddur to page 2 as we kindle our Sabbath lights.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
We sing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. Let
Shabbat
there be
Shalom.
Shabbat lights, let there be Shabbat peace. And now it's a joy to call upon Jen Gilbert and to read on page 14. We're going to turn to page 14 as we turn to this beautiful psalm that tells us to sing a new song unto Adonai. And in all of the many ways that our congregation has been making the world a better place, Jen has been a part of so many of those. So it's right that you should be here reading Sing a New Song.
Sing to Adonai a new song. Sing to Adonai all the earth. Sing to Adonai, bless God's name. Proclaim God's victory day after day. Tell of God's glory among the nations, God's wondrous deeds among all peoples. For Adonai is great and much acclaimed. God is held in awe by all divine beings. All the gods of the peoples are mere idols, but Adonai made the heavens. Glory and majesty are before God. Strength and splendor are in God's temple. Together, let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder. The fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of Adonai, for God is coming. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its peoples in faithfulness.
We now turn to page 24 as we not only have greeted each other with enthusiasm and sincerity, but we greet all of those angels on high into our lives as we join in singing Shalom Aleichem on page 24. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ברכוני לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We continue now on page 27. Page 27. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, there is no place on earth without the presence. We join now together in the Chatzi Kaddish on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכו בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקדושה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן.
We rise together now as we turn to the call to worship on page 28.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
We continue now on page 30 with Ma'ariv Aravim. It's a joy now to call upon Steve Rubnitz to step forward as he is going to lead us in the Hebrew. And certainly these words speak about sunset, but there's never a sunset without a sunrise. And sometimes in the world that we can best say is broken, when we watch the sun go down, it's helpful to know that there is hope. And when we have people like Steve who are working to make the world a better place, it's easy to know that the sun will rise once again.
Page 30, together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chachma poteah she'arim, u'v'tvuna mishanei itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'misader et hakokavim, b'mishmeretein berakia kiratzono, b'rei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei chodesh b'chodesh miki or, u'mervir yom u'mevir layla, umevdil ben yom unvein laila Adonai tzvot shemo el chai v'kayim tamid imloch aleinu leilam vayed baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravim.
You got it. We continue now on page 33. Let's read together in the English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We turn now to the watchword of our faith, the Shema, on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem לעולם ועד.
You may be seated. It's now a joy to call upon Bill Gartenberg, who's going to step forward and lead us in the English of Ve'ahavta on page 36. In Ve'ahavta, you shall love. These words that come from our Torah aren't just words that demand that love of our hearts, but to love is to show action, to make the world a better place. And certainly Bill does that through his work with our Social Action Committee.
Thank you.
You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. We are going to turn now to page 39. Let's read responsively this reading that introduces the Mi Chamocha prayer. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Mi chamocha pailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. מלכותך רוב ענך, בוקעי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי. לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי, ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. We continue on page 43. Let's read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue on page 44 with Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני Israel, oti leolam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi shavat
The top of page 45, we are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We continue now on page 46 with the tefillah. We rise together as one community as we join in prayer together.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Konei Hakol, Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol ata rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'al gevurot umido melach melech memit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim bechol yom yahalalu kasela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We continue now on page 55. Let's read responsively at the bottom of the page. Disturb us, Adonai. Ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue, top of page 57. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utvilatam be'ava tikabel, utehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Ever-present one, may your people Israel be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you. In this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. We continue at bottom of page 59, prayer for gratitude, the Hoda'ah prayer. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers. Let's read together. The moon and stars that you set in place. What are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai. Hatov Shimcha Ulcha Na'eh Lehodot. We continue now with page 60. On page 60 as we pray the prayer for peace. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech Adon Lechol ha'ashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon Lechol ha'ashalom. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol eit uv'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et hamo Yisrael b'shalom.
It's right that we take a moment to pray for healing for those who might be in need of refuat nefesh or refuat guf, a need of healing of body and a healing of spirit, particularly as we are still hearing the echoes of Shalom Rav through our hearts. Because that word shalom shares its root with shalem, peace and wholeness. They coexist in a sense. And so we pray for peace and wholeness for these dear members of our community. We think of Shandel Barfrida Malka, Julie Borikoff, Margot Roz, Carol Dubin, Sharon Rotman, Steve Toplinsky, Esther Cohen, Lisa Furstat, Hachazan Sarah Chelba Yocheved Alexander, Steve Plotkin, Avram Ben Naftali, Marilyn Harmon, Barry Bursack, Mary Frankowitz, Sophia Rubenstein, Hilana Himmelfarb, Avraham Batfrida, Marla Chikowski, Michael Sychek, David Rotter, Natalie Cohen, Yona Neri Ben Avraham Vasara, Keith Mendel, Jamie Kryman, Isla Batnatan Vashoshana, Mark Cook, Luke Roberts, Cooper Roberts, Jason Roberts, and Keely Roberts, Mark Berlin, Dr. Susie Mendelson, Audrey Rubin, Josh Bowley, Michaela Hellenberg, Julie Austin, Chris Gould, Howard Messerman, Michal Stroud, Lisa Fiel, Susan Garrison, Yehuda Ben Avraham Vasara, Shane Alea Bat Yehudit, Warren Beal, Ron Slavin, Peter Rotter, Wendy Cohen, Suzanne Swain, Friedling Kruglak-Viel, Scott Keller, Eileen Shippen, Roger Cook, Michael Bernstein-Fine, Lona Ross, Neil Pinsky, Michael Keller, Baruch Lazer Ben Esther, Leila Rosen, David Kleinman, Felice Bruskin, Batya Riva Bat Yosef and Miriam, Michaela Peck, Rena Leah Bat Malka Sura, Carol Himmelfarb, Meir Ben Herschel Ben Nechama. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, or if you're holding their loved ones' names in your heart, we invite you to hold those names as we turn to these words of Mishaberach. Let's say these words of tradition first. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, the source of healing.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu Mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We now take this time for Tefillat Halev, for the prayers of our innermost heart.
Iyu leratzon imrei fi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai Suri vegoli Adonai Suri vegoli. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. Iyu leratzon imrei fi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoli Adonai tzuri vegoli.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Joy now to call upon David Wolfson, who is our co-chair of Dayenu, co-chair of our membership committee, member of our board of directors, a man who cares so deeply about our community. And David, in the best spirit of our tradition, believes that not only should we gather as a community and feel like we're welcome as a community, but he knows the tradition that every sanctuary should have windows. And the reason why is that we should be able to look out of those windows, not just be inward looking, but to be a community of purpose, to look out upon the world, to see the challenges that exist, but also the beauty of the world that is around us, and to make sure that we sustain it, not only for ourselves, but for the generations to come. So David, thank you for inspiring us all. It's a joy to have you on this bima.
Thank you very much.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
When it comes to issues relating to the environment, it really is easy to become overwhelmed and distraught. And then we're reminded by the wisdom found in Jewish tradition. We may not be able to finish a righteous task, yet we are obliged to begin. At Congregation Shalom, we have begun the work being done by clergy, administration, and among our congregation's outward-facing committees like Social Action, Voices for Justice, and the Shalom Dayenu Circle are identifying opportunities to engage and connect with like-minded people who share a concern for environmental and health justice. Tonight, I'm honored to introduce you to the dynamic co-founder of Plastic Free MKE, Miss Minal Atre. Forgive me. Minal has a decades-long commitment to building a just, sustainable path in her own life and ideas which could impact our entire community. Minal will answer questions like, do we have a plastics problem? What are nurdles? How does microplastic enter our waterways? Where is our over-reliance on plastics leading us? Can we change? I'll share just a small sampling of her many accomplishments. Minal helped to adopt Boomerang Bags project in Milwaukee, where people make reusable bags for everyday shopping, and they have fun while they're creating. Minal persuaded the Milwaukee Federated Library System to print those receipts that we get in phenol-free fashion. So small difference, but making great impact. She's introduced projects like lake-friendly certifications for businesses and organizations. She's creating everyday educational toolkits and is continually advocating for sensible policy changes. She facilitates trash talks at schools and interested organizations like ours. When she's not trash talking, Minal is the Corporate Relations Director at the Urban Ecology Center and sits on the Shorewood Conservation Committee. Please join me in welcoming Minal Atre.
Thank you, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I think David was too kind in his words as to what my work in plastics and in general in the community is. I would say most of it is done as a collaborative work with a lot of other like-minded folks who want to make a change. I did take an initiative in phenol-free receipts, and I do trash rock, so that is definitely true. One of my favorite things to do, and we're gonna try to do a little bit of a trash talk. But before we begin with the presentation, I just want to acknowledge that I'm not an expert in this field. I have just learned from over the years and talking with community and members, and we're trying to talk about a topic that I personally can talk for like 8 hours, and we're going to shrink it into 30 minutes. So understanding that we won't be able to deep dive in it. However, we'll try to cover mostly what we are talking about is single-use plastics. So what you see over on the screen are two pictures. The one on the right side was in National Geographic issue, and it talked about plastic pollution as just a tip of iceberg. And a lot of time when we hear plastic pollution, we think about oceans as like being polluted. And the picture that's on the left side you see is actually I took which I think is better, because it was in Milwaukee River, right in Shorewood, and there was a plastic bag floating. And I think that was a great reminder for everybody that plastic pollution not only affects oceans, but it affects our river, our ponds, our Great Lakes, and our community. And so we're gonna focus very local, even though it's a big national, global problem. And if I get the technology right, we'll move to the next slide. Do I point somewhere?
We'll switch on the side, is it on?
Yeah, it is on.
Okay, I'll go in the back and you just say next slide and I'll turn the slide.
All right, next slide, thank you.
Okay.
I'm not taking this time as my 30 minutes, so we're gonna stop the watch right here. But again, like, I know this is a dark topic and it can feel like you're hopeless and you can't do because it's such a big problem. So we're gonna focus really on what individual actions look like and how you as an individual can make a difference. And there is my next slide, yay. I thought the remote would work, but that tells you why humans are important still, even though machines are taking over. Before we start talking about plastic as this bad, evil thing, I want to bring attention that not all plastic is created equal. You know, plastic has definitely improved our lifestyle in many, many ways, and here are some examples of it. You know, playgrounds have become safer since we moved to plastic. Our electric equipments have become safer. And so what plastic is not meant to be used as is to be used one time and throw it away. Because plastic is durable, it lasts really long, and it can be molded into any shape and size. So why would you take something that can last forever and turn it into something you can use one time, if it's a spoon or a cup or a plastic bag, and throw it away and let it last for thousands of years? So next slide. I was like looking further along. And so here are some of the ways the plastic enters our household in a sneaky way, I like to say. We're all aware of plastic bags and plastic bottles, but today we're going to look a little bit deeper than that and think about what are the single-use plastic, as I call them. And here are some of the examples of what that looks like. Next slide. Oh, it's working. Thank you. And so what happens when we throw away a single-use plastic, whatever that plastic may be? It doesn't go away. It stays here forever. There's really no away. But what happens is it breaks down into these smaller pieces and what we call as microplastic. So when you throw away a plastic and it ends up in the environment, it doesn't biodegrade, even though they say that it can biodegrade over 300 or 3,000 years, whatever number you heard. It actually just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. And eventually it becomes a microplastic. Currently, all Great Lakes the deepest level of Great Lakes have microplastic in them. So it has reached to all levels of Great Lakes. And we do not have any way of removing microplastic from water yet. So here are some of the examples of what microplastic may look like. As you can see, I don't have a pointer, but if you're looking at the right top corner, that's some of the fiber from washing your clothes. 80% of our clothes are now made with synthetic fiber, polyester, and fleece, all that is synthetic fiber. One thing that's on the top right corner, you can see little pieces of tire, maybe a straw, a bottle cap. So this is what the plastic breaks down to. And most of the plastic that you will see today, you know, in the lakes is the size of what that's shown on the penny. And that's all plastic, which sometimes we think it's a sand or it's a grain or a rock. It basically is that level. And one of the number one pollutant, other than what I'm going to show in the next slide, is called nurdles. And as cute as the word may sound, it actually is the raw material that's shipped to, you know, when we recycle something, it actually melts down and become these nurdle pellets. And then they're melted again and put into a new shape. But when that process happens, there's a huge water runoff, and all those nurdles end up in our lakes, our rivers. I promise, if you visit any shores of Great Lakes or Lake Michigan, you go to Whitefish Bay, You go to Milwaukee, Bradford Beach, and you spend 10 minutes just digging in the sand and really know what nurdle look like, I can promise you that you will find nurdles no matter where you dig in Michigan beaches. And so it is everywhere. Now, why we have nurdles in Lake Michigan, we have not been able to track, but there is a huge pollution problem in oceans as well. And so think about it as like where all the water bodies are connected, and maybe that is why we're seeing nurdles here. We don't know, but they're here. And they're here to stay because you cannot remove nurdles from water. That would require sifting sand. And when you start sifting sand, you're actually removing some of the really important organisms from the sand that stops from soil erosion. And so currently nobody's removing nurdles from water. They're there to stay. Here's the number one plastic pollutant that we don't think about. Washing our clothes is one of the easiest way you release microplastic in the water. Like I mentioned, most of our plastic clothing is made from plastic, and here are some of the plastic fibers, for example. And so cotton, wool, linen, bamboo, those are silk, those are natural fibers, and when you wash them, whatever fiber they release can be biodegradable. We're gonna get darker and darker before we lift up. And so before we start to talk about what is plastic pollution and how it affects us, I want to bring attention that plastic pollution is not just an environmental issue, but it's also an environmental justice issue. It affects people very differently depending on where you live and who you are. And so we're going to watch a small clip that really gives you an idea of what that looks like. I don't know if I can play that or somebody can play the play button. There you go.
Plastic pollution poses a big problem, but not only to the environment. From source extraction to waste, the existence of plastics hinders the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, affecting natural resources and the health and rights of communities around the world. For example, this is Yvette. She lives in a fishing village near an estuary. Her family has always depended on the ocean and its resources, but recently, a plastic manufacturer has settled upstream. Pollution from the factory may cause flooding, impacts tourism and fisheries, contaminates seafood and water sources with microplastics, and overall has negative repercussions on human rights. Every step of plastic production, when unsupervised, can impact the health and human rights of communities like Yvette's, which lack the power to influence planning stages. Try to imagine the stress and anxiety the parents of these children suffer, being exposed to plastic-related toxics. These marginalized communities, living next to polluting industries, are more susceptible to inequalities. Health issues compound education disparities. Moreover, waste picking is considered a woman's job, even if their bodies are impacted disproportionately, further exposing girls like Yvette to sanitation issues. As fisheries are polluted, fishermen, like Yvette's father, are forced to take jobs in production, gravely impacting their health with highly toxic materials. At the same time, the lack of political will and financing delays the development of circular economies, recycling and collection infrastructures, and fails to properly address unemployment. Now, from an infrastructural standpoint, plastic is produced using highly contaminated methods. This commodifies natural resources for profit and hinders the improvement of cleaner energies. Coupled with insufficient regulations and penalties, this hampers the development of sustainable communities, while complex recycling systems burden individual consumers and local authorities abdicate their responsibilities. From an ecologic standpoint, plastic production drives climate change through the emission of greenhouse gases, threatens marine wildlife, and aggregates contaminants through bioaccumulation and ocean acidification. It also affects life on land, as most microplastics and plastic waste output remain on land. Industrialized countries ship their plastic waste to poorer nations, and facilities are built mostly in minority communities, like Yvette's, threatening strong institutions and undermining justice and stability. In all, plastic pollution prevents the reduction of inequalities. But there is a silver lining. We are presented with a chance to create equitable collaboration opportunities to address plastic pollution at the global scale, to help strengthen the voices from impacted countries and come up with real solutions.
All right. So that really, even though it's an animation, it happens in real life and it happens in all the communities where the plastic factories are. Can I get to the next slide? Did it work? No. You might have to. There we go. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to take care of the plastic problem. All right? In an ideal world, a plastic pollution problem needs to be tackled by consumers, retailers, manufacturers, and the government. All four need to come together. However, in most of the communities, like Wisconsin, currently that burden lies on consumers because there is no policy that can prevent that. There are no manufacturing laws, and so I can't get too much into it because of time, but we're gonna talk about recycling because anytime I talk about plastic, I hear, but I recycle. So let's talk about what that means to recycle. That symbol, the triangle, has absolutely no significance. Any manufacturer can just put that triangle on the product. What is important is the number that's inside the triangle. Okay, if there is no number in that triangle, if you have a plastic cover and you're like, oh, it says triangle, I'm gonna put it in recycling, do not do that. If there is no number, that means you cannot recycle it. It's made from a variety of different chemical compounds. The numbers go from 1 through 7, and each number tells you what chemical compound that plastic is made from. Number 1 is low density polyethylene. So there's like several. There is polystyrene, which is number 6. So each number tells you what kind of chemicals went into that product. I put number 1, 2, and 5 for one reason. Those are the ones that are more likely to get recycled because they have more market value. It is all market demand-driven market. So if there's no manufacturer that's taking any other numbers, they're not gonna sell it. So if you're thinking of like what kind of plastic, if I have a party, and I understand not everybody has a bandwidth to think about how I can use all reusables, and if you have a need for larger distribution of single-use plastic, avoid number 6. Simple as that. Avoid number 4. Avoid number 7. And think about if you can get something number 1 and number 2 and possibly number 5 because they're more likely to get recycled. And I also want you to think about like the 3 R's of recycling: reduce, reuse, recycle. There are many other R's you can think about, you know, and I have put some of my favorite here. Now we'll go to the next one. One of the worst ways you can damage the recycling process is by wish cycling. Oh, I think it can be recycled. It's plastic, and you put it in that blue bin, and that can contaminate the lot. And so here are some of the examples of how you can stop from wish cycling. Every community has a different recycling facility and different recycling rules. So wherever you live, go to your municipality website and find out what the regulations are and learn about those. Also know the difference between accept and recycle. If the website says, we accept all 1 through 7 plastic, that means they're only taking it from you and sorting it out on their own. Again, the same rule of 1, 2, and 5 applies there. So some communities like Milwaukee will say, we only will take 1, 2, and 5 because they want you to be responsible for sorting that out and not put any contaminant. But some of the communities, like where I live, it says we accept all 1 through 7. That only means that they're taking it. That does not mean they're recycling it. So don't get confused by, oh, my community does better. Nobody's recycling number 7 in the world right now. Then rinse and recycle. And by rinse and recycle, I don't mean like wash it with hot water and soap empty out whatever the content it had. If it had a burrito or, half of the drink, empty it out and then put it in the recycling. Put the cap back on. That is the best way you can reduce the waste. And lose in the bin. We used to have different separate compartments in our recycling when we had a glass one separately and paper one separately. But now what we have is called a single stream recycling. That means we put everything together and there are machines that do the job of sorting it out. So make sure that you're not putting any plastic bags and don't bag it. The sorting facility has a conveyor belt that moves at a 3 second per football field. Nobody's going to open your bag and see what you put in there, then sort it out for you. There's a big hole, and it just goes right in that hole, and then that goes into the landfill. So don't bag your recyclables at all. And the last one, which I find it very hard to follow, but you must follow, is when in doubt, throw it out. If you're not sure what happens with it, if you're not sure if it can be recycled, throw it away. That will be also a good step for you to figure out, how can I not bring it next time? So when in doubt, throw it out. Very hard to follow, I tell you that. Now here's a fun fact. 91% of all the plastics that we put in the blue bin is not recycled. Only 9% is recycled. So what happens to 91%? Many things. It goes to the landfill. It's burned. It comes back as a trash and goes into the lakes or the rivers. So only 9%. So is recycling effective? The answer is no. So what do? You're like, I know, I get it. Recycling is not the answer. Plastic is bad. What can you do? So I request that if you're thinking of taking your plastic-free journey one step further, wherever you are, you have to first do an audit. Figure out what is it that you consume that goes into organic matter, that goes into recycling. Again, knowing what your recycling is. It might be number 1 and 2 only. I think racine is the one that takes only 1 and 2. So knowing that is very important. And what goes into landfill. You cannot change your habits until you know what you're using and what you're throwing away. So this step is very, very important. Do the trash audit. Figure out, if you don't have a composting program, that is okay. We can talk about how you can separate the wet trash so you don't have to change your garbage bags very frequently. My garbage bag stays in the trash can for 2 weeks because I have a composting. And even when I don't have something that's compostable but it's wet, I throw it out separately so I don't have to change the whole bag for 2 weeks. So the single most step in reducing a single-use plastic, and it's one of the easiest steps, is to refuse. And there's so many ways you can refuse single-use plastic from coming into your house. Plasticware. If you're taking a takeout, and if you're going to eat it at home, just say, we don't need silverware. Or carry one with you if you're going to eat it out anyway. If you're ordering food on apps like Uber and others, there is a special comment in there that you can say, please don't any silverware. A lot of them now have an option don't send me silverware. But if they don't, you can just put that as a simple one step that can avoid any, if you don't need sauce packet or ketchup packets, just mention that, no need for that, and you're avoiding bringing it home. Single serving items. I know how convenient it is to just grab something and go. But it is one of the easiest way you can reduce the amount of plastic that comes into your house. So buy something in bulk, and if you have little humans at home, I do, and I have little containers, and I put my child to work and say, make these 7 servings for us for the whole week. Whatever snack that might be, buy it in bulk, and then divide it into little portions for you, and then grab and go. You can still do that grab and go thing, but you don't have to bring some single-use plastic home with that. Party favors. This is one of my favorite pet peeves. Anytime we go to, because I have a child and he attends a lot of parties, there are party favors. Most of those have little trinkets that they play for a couple of minutes and then they forget about it, right? So what we started doing, and I'm only speaking for my personal experience, is that we started saying no to party favors, and instead we would ask a birthday person if my child can take a picture with them or can have an extra cookie, which they can anyway, but it's nice to just say like, oh, you're gonna get an extra cookie, but we don't need these single-use items at home. Another thing, if you are hosting a party, is think about how you can steer away from like that 2-minute joy for those kids. There's one thing that comes as a ring pop or something. There's like a sucker on a plastic ring. I never understood the purpose of that. So, but I'm not a kid either. So just think about creative ways of steering away from the party favors to something more meaningful. Think of like a drawing sheet or something that doesn't require you to throw it away. Conference swags, how many pens do you need? How many tote bags do you need, right? Whenever, we have a tendency, and as an entire species, that someone offers something for free, even though we have a tendency to oh, that looks nice, let me take it. Or I need it right now, so you're justifying it in your head that, oh, I really needed a pen to write down something, and thanks for giving me that free pen. So just saying no. No is an easy way to avoid it. Straws. If you can drink by cup without using a straw, why do we need a straw? If you need a straw, then go for it. And if you need a straw and you can use a reusable one, there's so many cool ways now you can get the straws that you can carry with me. I always have my own straw. I have a steel one that my husband really is scared that my child is going to get hurt. And so I have a silicone one. We try to problem solve this in different angles because a lot of times me and my husband are not on the same page when it comes to certain things. It's like, that thing is a weapon. And I'm like, okay, fine, let's use a silicone straw. Right? Promotional materials. Again, same thing. Beer koozies. How many times have you used beer koozies and how many times do we get them, right? But they look cool and you're tempted when somebody hands those out, or if you sign up for their newsletter, then you get a beer koozie. Trust me, you don't need one. And if you do, carry one everywhere. Put that into your habit. So we talked about easy step, right? Refuse. Now you're like, I'm already there. I want to move on, move forward. So here are some of the things you can do. When I talked about the trash audit, there's one way you can do is organic waste, recycle, and landfill. But now you're like, I want to see what plastic items I can remove from my lifestyle. 2 ways you can do an audit. One is morning to night routine, which is what do you all use from morning until night that is single-use plastic? Or what is it that you use the most and most important versus least important, most impactful versus least impactful. So make a diary of it. Figure out what is your morning routine looks like. Toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, lunch, coffee, right? Dinner, office travel, whatever you do, think about all that, write those down, and then think what is more important to you, what is most meaningful for you that you want to change, and change that first. If you have all the audit done and you're ready to make a swap, don't do it without a budget, because I tell you, going plastic free in today's world is not cheap, but it doesn't have to be expensive. And I'm going to tell you how you can do that without spending a whole lot of money, right? So create a plan, create a budget. I love including all family members. So if you are the plastic crusader in the house, don't fight it alone. Invite your family members, have a conversation. You might not get where you want to be in 1 year. It took me 12 years to make my pantry plastic free, and it still sneaks into my pantry, and it annoys me, but I have learned that it's not going to be like that until we change a lot of things. So include your family members, have a conversation, create a plan, create a budget, and then get in action. I recommend that whatever swaps you're going to do, whether it's a toothbrush or a toothpaste or a shampoo bar, do one swap per month. You will see blogs and videos of people going, it's December 31st, and from January 1st, I'm going to throw away all my plastic, and I'm going to go plastic free. First of all, don't throw a perfectly good plastic, please. Use it until it dies, until you can't use it anymore. That's like the worst thing you can do just because you want to go plastic free. And then don't switch everything. It's like going on a new diet where everything looks different. You know, you might be able to do it for 1 week, you might be able to do for a month, then you're gonna hate it. And the plastic-free journey is exactly like that. So do one swap at a time. Why 1 month? Is because if you switch to, and I'll give you a real example that happened in my house. We switched to bamboo toothbrushes, and we ordered one brand, and literally the bristles fell in my mouth. And I was like, oh, they're worse. This is not gonna work. So 1 month allows you to either A, try another brand, or put that away and come back to it next time. So you're not discouraged by it, okay? And 30 days, I think, is enough time for you to get into habit of something, right? I think it says like 21 days or something like that, but I'm giving you 9 extra days to practice, right? So the good way is to really go slow, take your time, try things out. If they don't work out, that's not the, I mean, when I started going plastic-free, there were so little options. And now there are so many. And we have friends at Green Life Trading Company that are happy to help you how you can make better choices and how you can make better decisions. You know, toothpaste tablet, I went to 4 different brands and I finally found something that I like. So it takes a while to figure out what you want. And grace, the last one, I can't really read it, but the grace is so important, right? You're ready to rock and roll and you're ready to make a change. You're gonna fail. You're gonna hate that somebody in the family is not doing as much as you wanted them to, you know? Like you have grocery bags and somebody shows up with a plastic bag because they forgot. Don't be angry at yourself. Don't be angry at your family members. When you're making a plan, give yourself grace because the world that we know today is not meant for you to be plastic free. It used to be many years ago, and we quickly got to this level where we can't live without plastic anymore. And it's gonna take a long time until we get back to that level. And if you start to expect that in like a day or a month or a year, you're gonna only feel frustrated. So anytime you forget your bag, anytime you take that plastic fork, just say, all right, I did it this time, I'm gonna try to do better, and move on. Don't linger on it too long. I learned it very hard way because every single time my husband brought plastic bag, I was like, did you not see the bags in the car? And he's like, yeah, I forgot, you know. And he was very genuine about it, but I was very upset that he forgot, you know. Who forgets the bags? I do. I mean, raise your hand if you have had a bag in the house and didn't take it to the grocery store, right? Exactly. And so until it becomes our muscle memory, we have to keep practicing it. We lost that. I mean, I know like my grandparents used to take grocery bags all the time. It wasn't even a question. But here we are, right, talking about it. And one of the things I want to point out is like, you don't always have to go and buy new products. When you're making a budget, think of like, what are the household items you can swap with? And here's like use the old bottle. You don't have to go get the glass bottle, although they're nice, I'll say that. But you don't have to switch it right away because, then you're gonna cause stress, financial and emotional. Maybe somebody in your house loves plastic spray bottles, and now you're giving them those amber bottles. Greenwashing, oh my gosh, this has become so rampant now because people are realizing, manufacturers are realizing, oh, people want something eco-friendly, right? The best example I give is at one of my favorite stores, they sell Easter eggs during Easter time that are eco-friendly Easter eggs, but they're all wrapped in plastic. And it annoys every single time I see those. The eggs are eco-friendly, the packaging is not, right? So be aware of greenwashing. Again, the definition can vary, and the importance of greenwashing to you can also vary, right? I mean, we all don't live the same way. Our houses don't look the same way. So no judgment on what you consider greenwashing. The best way I learn is turn and learn. That's the rule I follow, right? The front of the material can say anything like, oh, eco-friendly, compostable, biodegradable, natural. But when you read the labels in the back, that is where you learn the most, what the product is made of, what the bottle is made of, made from recycled. This bottle is made from recycled content. And then you turn and you look at it, it's only 2% recycled content or 20%, right? So it is made from recycled content, but only 2%. So turn and learn, make your own judgment. Don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't get those subscription boxes that send you eco-friendly products every month, Best way is to learn about is talking to your friends and community members and people who have done it and see what works. And don't go into subscription boxes. I don't recommend that. Here's what I do when I do shopping. And sometimes it can be very frustrating because then it takes me very long to do grocery shopping. But my rule is that when I'm going shopping, that cart only will have things that I know what they do to my body. Is it healthy for me? Is it okay for me to use it? What does it do to people who made that product? How were they treated? How were they paid? A lot of times it's not easy to find that right away. And sometimes if you need that cheese, and you need that cheese. And I understand, but I keep thinking about it. And what does it do to the planet? How was it made? What happened to the waste, right? And if I'm happy with the answer, I put the product in the cart. If I'm not happy with the answer, and I can live without it for that day, I put it back and I make a note. I need to find out a better alternative than what is available in the market. And if I find it, great. If I don't find it, I go buy it. But I'm aware that I'm buying this product that is not doing good for the planet. The people who were not paid properly. And I'm recognizing that. And I'm taking that responsibility that I'm actually buying this product knowing that this is what happened. And that changes the way you look at the consumption. So that's my rule. You can make your own rules. But this is how I do the shopping. And so nobody else goes shopping with me. Oh, I went back because I was holding the remote backwards. Here we go. So I was not keeping track of time. I was trying to go very fast. But I'm going to leave you all with this one quote, that we don't need everybody to do plastic-free journey perfectly, okay? We need millions and millions of us trying and failing and figuring out what works for them and doing it the best they can, trying harder every single time, okay? This is not something we created overnight. This is not something we'll get overnight either. So think about it as you're one step closer. Every single time you say no, whether that's 10 times in a month or 50 times in a month, every single time you refuse, you're reducing one thing from going in the landfill, one thing from going into our oceans, and that matters. If you have any questions, I'm available in various places. But I encourage you, reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manal. It was really informative, and we are in a period of time. I'm glad you ended on that final slide, because it's very important. We are in a period of counting, a period in which we're counting the Omer. And we're counting from the day, historically, we believe, in which we were liberated from Egypt, and then we're receiving the Torah on Mount Sinai. And this counting is important because it reminds us that there's power in numbers. My rabbi of blessed memory used to say, we can change the world, 1 + 1 + 1, right? When each person tries to make a little bit of change in the world, then we can see a tremendous amount of change. And so let this period of counting be a reminder to us that we can make a difference. And through whether it's social action or social justice or trying to heal the world through Dayenu, we know that we can make our world truly better. So we are going to turn now to page 278. That's 278, and we're going to rise together as we count the Omer, as we enter into this or continue through this season of counting. Page 278, please rise.
הנני מוכן ומזומן לקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת העומר. ברוך Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Amen. Hayom arba'a ve'arba'im yom, shem shisha shavuot u'shnei yamim la'omer.
Today is the 44th day, which is 6 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. It's now a great joy to call upon Steve and Stephanie Rubinitz Steve Rubinitz to come forward, and I'll open up the ark door with you, Steve, as we turn to page 282. That's page 282. And we turn to the sacred words of Aleinu.
Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol, latet gdula leyotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומולדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Our hearts and our thoughts turn to memory as we think of dear ones who have passed into life eternal. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are mourning the loss of Kenneth Kessler and Corinne Plotkin. We think of those for whom we mark the period of Shivra. We think of Frederick Neubauer. In addition to those names, too, we think of those who we commemorate the Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period. We think of Evan Bookstaff, Julius Garber, Felisa Grant, Andy Coppett, Rabbi Harold Kushner, Stuart Peckerman, Janet Shapiro, Richard Strauss, and Ren Golan. And though they passed in seasons gone by, we still feel ourselves walking in their footsteps as we think of the ways that they count in our lives. We think of those from whom we mark this yahrzeit. We think of James Bacall, John H. Beale, David Cohen, Georgia Copeland, Jerome Duckler, Virginia Glass, Sherwood Gorins, Lowell Grossman, Charles Horwitz, Frida Hurwitz, Irma Jacobson, Jean V. James, Rosalie Kahn, George T. Klein, Shirley Knayas, Jack Kohlenberg, Hannah Kravitz, Saul Lemmel, Maurice Marks, Leonard Naiman, Patricia Oppenheimer, Ruth Pearson, Jeffrey Allen Plotkin, Erica Richmond, Lillian Solomon Rothman, Emmerich Salzberg, Gary Sapiro, Barbara Schertzer, Clarice Schiff, Sonia Sosoff, Bernard Stein, Ben Weissman, Sheldon Wasserman, Jean Werner, Marion Winston, Mildred Wolfson, Anna Yano, Isaac Young. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, please do call those names out loud as I look in your direction. May their memories be for a blessing. May her memory be a blessing. May his memory be a blessing. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who died due to war and or terrorism, all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all those who died due to this terrible virus that has stricken our nation and our globe, as well as the virus of racism and xenophobia. We think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 294. We rise together now as one community as we recite these sacred words together and remember our loved ones. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, B'alma Divra Chirutei v'amlich Malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shmei Kudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran b'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. It's our tradition to turn from sadness to joy, as we learn that those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. It's now a joy to call upon David Wolfson. As a member of our board of directors, he is going to make some announcements on behalf of our community. There are a number of wonderful things happening here at Congregation Shalom in coming days and in the coming months, and I think, David, you've got a list of them, so we'll count each and every one.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see everybody again. Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you, Minal, for sharing your knowledge with us. I understand that you will be around for our Oneg Shabbat to answer any of the questions people might have. Thank you for members of Voices for Justice, Social Action, and Shalom's Dayenu Circle for making this Shabbat so special. I also want to thank Linda Hollifield and Peyton Gex. I think you're in the room somewhere, probably working elsewhere, but we really appreciate all you do. Now for the announcements. Please join us on Thursday, May 25th at 8 p.m. for our confirmation class service, followed by an oneg. This is a big milestone for our confirmants. On Sunday, May 28th, the Shavuot Scoop returns to Baskin-Robbins in Bayside at 1 p.m. Rabbi Noah, I believe Rabbi Pulaski, and other celebrity clergy members will be there scooping your favorite ice cream flavors. Wednesday, May 31st at 6:30 p.m., please join us for the Holocaust Memorial Series sponsored by Sydney and Nina Weidel. Tal Brody, the ambassador of goodwill for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel and former basketball player with Maccabi Tel Aviv, will be the guest speaker. Second annual Gary Paler Memorial Golf Outing will be held at Songbird Kills Golf Club on Sunday, June 25th at 8 a.m. Invite your friends and join us for a great day of golf and fun. Registration is open and there are still a few sponsorships available for those of you who are so inclined. You're welcome to join our Saturday Torah study and Shabbat service tomorrow at 9 and 10 a.m. A community lunch will follow. Don't forget, Minyan also occurs every weeknight at 5:45 p.m. Finally, we look forward to getting together with you in Klurfeld at the conclusion, which is soon, of tonight's service, and we will enjoy a wonderful oneg. Many thanks to our community resource organizations that include Green Homeowners United, Green Life Trading Company, the Milwaukee Jewish Free Loan Association, including information about their newest offering, a new green and gold fund for people wanting to go greener in their own homes. MMSD, back for a second consecutive year. Outpost Natural Foods Co-op, Tikkun Ha'ir, and Plastic Free MKE. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom. But one other late bulletin from Cantor Purple. We just came in. This is really hot off the press, right? Make sure to look for the summer music series flyer in the upcoming shofar or weekday emails. This year's series will include a wonderfully talented harpist. We'll also hear from our Simchat Torah klezmer group, a band in all hope. And the series closes with a performance by members of our professional quartet who add so much, not only to our high holy days, but at other moments during the year. They'll be singing some of their favorites, so stay tuned. Now, Shabbat Shalom.
Let us not abandon all hope, but let us rise as we turn to our closing hymn for the Shabbat, which is Breaking News, Adon Olam. Adon Olam, which can be found in your Siddur. I don't have a page number, Cantor. What page
321.
Number? 321.
Page 321. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh B'tifa. Last verse. Beyado avkid ruchi, be'edishan be'aira, ve'im ruchi geviyati, Adonai li ve'lo ira.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, we've got to do Kiddush. All right. Cantor. Will
Yes.
you lead us in Kiddush? I believe it's back on page 5.
We should have them do it.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we should do. Our cup certainly is
Page
overflowing with
5.
blessing, but it is not
We
plastic.
sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim, to life.
Shabbat Shalom.